So let's dive into this really fascinating puzzle playing out in North Carolina. It's all about something we can all get behind: public greenways. You know, those trails for walking and biking. But what's wild is that we've got a tale of two cities with two totally different mindsets, and it really makes you ask one big question.
And yeah, here it is. How on earth is Asheville, a city that's smaller and has fewer resources, actually building its trail network, while Charlotte, this major economic powerhouse, just seems to be stuck? It's a classic David versus Goliath story, but it's not about fighting, it's about building.
You know, you can really boil it down to this. Charlotte likes to call itself the city of the future, right? But when it comes to greenways, that future always feels like it's somewhere way off in the distance. Meanwhile, you've got Asheville, and they're building that future right now. It's not about having a vision, it's about actually making it happen.
Okay, so if you want to understand why this is happening, you got to do what they always say: follow the money. A city's budget, it's more than just numbers on a page. It's basically a giant billboard showing you what really matters to that.
And wow, just look at this number. In June 2024, Charlotte officials gave the green light to a massive public funding deal, $650 million, to renovate the Bank of America Stadium, which, by the way, is privately owned. Just keep that number in your head.
Now, this is where the source introduces a really smart way to think about this. They call the stadium a 10-day asset. Think about it. The Panthers play, about 10 games at home each year? Even if you toss in a few concerts or other events, you've got this incredibly expensive building that's just empty for most of the year. And then, on the complete flip side, you have the 365-day asset. This is something like the Cross-Charlotte Trail. It's infrastructure for the public, something anyone can use every single day of the year, for a commute, for exercise, for just getting out. It's providing value constantly.
So when you see it laid out like this, the choice is pretty stark, isn't it? On one hand, you have an asset that gets used maybe a dozen times a year. On the other, you have one that serves people 365 days a year. The argument here is that Charlotte somehow found over $500 million for the 10-day asset, but claims the piggy bank is empty for the 365-day one.
All right, so this brings us to the real core of the issue. When people ask why greenways aren't getting funded, the official response in Charlotte often points to the law. But as the source material digs into, that barrier might be more of an excuse than a real wall.
This is the official line. You'll hear that the money from the occupancy tax, that's the tax on hotel rooms that's supposed to fund tourism, is legally forbidden from being used on trails. It sounds final, right? Like, hey, our hands are tied.
But here's the plot twist. There's another city under the very same state government, following the very same laws, that does exactly that.
And this chart just says it all. Both Charlotte and Asheville have to follow the exact same North Carolina state law. The only thing that's different is how they interpret it. Charlotte's officials say greenways don't count as tourism. Asheville says, are you kidding? Of course they do. They argue that trails bring in visitors who spend money. And the result? Charlotte gets zero tourism dollars for its trails, while Asheville has pumped over $8 million into theirs.
So if it's not actually the law holding them back, what is Asheville doing so differently? Well, it turns out their success is all about having a smart, active strategy. See, they don't just sit around waiting for one giant check to show up. They're proactive. They stack their funding. They take that occupancy tax money, they match it with federal grants, they issue bonds, and they team up with local nonprofits. They don't wait to build the whole thing at once. They build it piece by piece and keep the momentum going. Charlotte's method, according to the source, is kind of the opposite. It's all about these huge 30-year master plans, depending on these massive sales tax votes that might not even pass, and commissioning study after study. It's a system that seems designed for delay. So while Asheville is building, Charlotte is planning to plan.
And all that waiting, all that delay, it has a real cost. We're not just talking about projects taking longer, we're talking about quality of life and, frankly, people's safety. This isn't just some abstract policy argument.
I mean, just look at the timeline for the main Cross-Charlotte Trail. They started planning this thing back in the 2010s. Here we are now, and huge chunks of it are still just lines on a drawing. The finish line just seems to get pushed further and further away.
And this is where the delay gets a human face. This is Harris-Houston Road. It's a place where the lack of action has had truly tragic results. It's a road with no sidewalks and no shoulder for people to walk on.
This past January, a man named Dale Lee Byrd was hit by a car and killed while he was walking here. The source describes his death as the predictable outcome of designing a road without giving people a safe place to be. He had nowhere else to go.
And here's the detail that's just heartbreaking. This incredibly dangerous stretch of road, it's less than 1 mile away from connecting to the main Cross-Charlotte Trail. A small, relatively cheap project could connect an entire community safely to the city's biggest greenway. It's such a critical missing link.
So given this huge difference between the two cities and the very real costs of waiting, the source doesn't just complain. It actually offers a clear way forward, basically borrowing the playbook that's already working in Asheville.
So here it is, the checklist for action. First, make the simple change. Call Greenways tourism assets and unlock all that hotel tax money. Focus on fixing dangerous spots like Harris-Houston Road first. Help out the community groups who are ready to start building right now. And for goodness sake, speed up construction and finish the trails you promised people years ago.
And this is the most important part. To do all of this, you don't need to pass a new state law. You don't need to raise a new tax. You don't need another 5-year study. The tools are already in the toolbox. It just takes a shift in priorities from the city's leadership.
So really, that's the question this whole thing leaves us with. You have a proven model for success that's working right now, just a couple of hours down the road. The need in Charlotte is crystal clear, and people want these greenways. If the answer's right there, what's really holding Charlotte back?